On the right here, Barich's squad. He's, of course, playing with Stiver and Fountain, correct? They are little black-red hollow one.
Yep, and Esper Control. Now, Esper Control did really well in Orlando last week, but I've heard a lot of players talking about testing on Magic Online and it not going so well. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see if this Esper Control deck is good enough. I like it. But we're going to be focusing here on Infect versus Death and Taxes. Tell us a little bit about this matchup from your experience.
This matchup is usually favored for Infect. They are very fast out the gates. They can get under the disruption that Death and Taxes has. And D&T really only has a few removal spells that can kind of handle what's going on. They do have the land disruption package, Port and Wasteland, that can take care of Nexus and stuff like that. They want to go on the land denial plan and then try to get through threats. If they get set up, it can be a tough matchup.
Yeah, so there's actually a pretty tough spot here for Jonathan. He has the option to play Stoneforge Mystic and have a blocker, but that leaves him vulnerable to Daze as well as just a follow-up Invigorate Berserk kill. Instead, could have end of turn cast the Swords of Plowshares on the Glistener Elf, but chose instead to play around the Daze and wait till his turn and play the Swords of Plowshares safely.
Yeah, a lot of D&T players, depending on the texture of their hand there, will just kind of do what they can do and just say, if you have the turn 2, I'll accept the loss, but then he's going to play it safe, kill the creature on his turn, play around Daze and all that kind of stuff. So Barrett is going to fire off a Brainstorm here, probably going to be looking for a second threat. Blighted Agent is the MVP in this matchup. Oh,
for sure. The fact that they have so many ground creatures that can take Glistener Elf out of the equation is a big deal. Plus, like you said, they have Rich Import and both Wasteland to take care of Inkmoth Nexus, so it's usually Blighted Agent or bust, but they have a lot of ways to find it with Brainstorm, Ponder Preordain, etc.
Right. Now, Jonathan's going to land the Stoneforge Mystic here on Cavern, I'm assuming is human, because that's usually Artificer. Ooh.
Well, he wants to make sure the Stoneforge Mystic resolves through something like Force Will, because Umezawa's Jitte is so powerful in the matchup. If he resolves the Stoneforge, finds Jitte, and ever connects with it, it's lights out for Infect.
Yeah, that is enemy number 1 for Barrett here in this matchup is the Jit. A lot of players have started playing Viridian Corruptor or like a Dissenter's Deliverance in their deck to try to hedge against Stoneforge Mystic's strategies. But Barrett didn't find another threat. He got the Verdant Catacombs, which he's cracking here now to reset the top of his deck after that Brainstorm. Yeah. He's on the look for a threat.
Oh, for sure. Barrett here is probably in a bad way since he didn't have that follow-up threat. He can't force Jonathan to actually block with the Stoneforge, normally if you had Glistener Elf and you attack into a Stoneforge, you have something to pump it.
Definitely.
And they're usually inclined to just block to force you to have the pump spell, otherwise risk dying. So, him not having a second threat on turn 2, even after using the Brainstorm, not the greatest news in the world.
Yeah, and he's going to find Sylvan Library here, which is usually good in the grindy matchups, but is not going to do any good if he gets Jitte on play or online. Barrett does have a couple of outs and some leeway here because Jonathan's going to need 4 lands to get the Stoneforge Mystic plus Jit going this turn, and even if he has that, Barrett can have Vines of Vastwood to counter the equip effectively.
Yeah, and it basically stifles it for the entire turn because it says that creature cannot be targeted by spells or abilities your opponents control until the end of turn. And it counters the first activation because, it has, not protection from it, but
hexproof from their spells and all that kind of stuff. So Jonathan's going to get another Stoneforge. He's going to find the Batterskull, which isn't great in this matchup, but he does have the 4th land. He's got Port here, and it looks like he's going to go for the instep, put Jit into play.
Yeah, I like this play from John playing it a little slow. Barrett doesn't quite have something like Blighted Agent yet. And even if he does find Blighted Agent, he desperately needs some way to interact with the Jitte next turn, or it's going to bury him. Definitely looking to pay 8 life here, I believe, with the Sylvan Library. Your life total almost irrelevant at this point.
Yep.
You just need more max resources. Hopefully you find a Brainstorm or just something else to do here.
Yeah, Aaron is running out of time. He's not going to have infinite ways to interact with Jit at this point. With this library, he needs to find a threat, take a bunch of cards like he did. He goes down to 12. He took all the cards. Now he needs to find a threat and then hope to have Vines or something to interact with Jit at this point. He's going to fire off a Brainstorm, dig even deeper. He's really got to find a threat here. Looks like he peeled a Ponder there and an extra land.
Yeah, he does have another Trop, so he can play one more thing like a Ponder or a Brainstorm and still be able to cast Blighted Agent, but that leaves him unable to actually interact with Umezawa's Jitte.
Yeah, he's got a handful of Dazes, and it looks like cantrips, which is not really where you want to be in this matchup.
Yeah, I pretty regularly side out Daze in this matchup because of things like Cavern of Souls. Plus, you don't really want to bounce your lands too often because of the mana denial package from the Death and Taxes side of things.
Yeah, so it looks like Aaron put back his cards from Brainstorm. He's going to fire off a Ponder here. Most likely was going to shuffle anyway. That's what he's going to do. Now he's going to have to take a blind card off the top and hopes to find a card here.
Honestly, I think he needs to blind hit a Vines of Vastwood, and he needs to not cast the Blighted Agent. And then next turn he needs to find another Vines of Vastwood and play Blighted Agent.
I mean, and that asks for a lot, but he's seen a lot of cards, and this kind of stuff does happen because he's seen so many cards. He's probably got the kill wrapped up if he finds Blighted Agent. He's probably got some pump spells and stuff. I think I've seen a Berserk or whatever, but if he doesn't have a way to interact with Jit, it doesn't matter.
Right, and he actually did have Blighted Agent to start the turn, but he knew that, it can't attack this turn. He needs to desperately find some way, namely Vines of Vastwood in the main deck, to interact with the GT, because once it hits, it's lights out.
Yep.
I've said lights out 3 times now. I got to stop doing that.
That's fine. The lights are very on, so.
Not for long.
All right, looks like Stiver here grabs game 1 in the Modern seed. He's playing the Hollow 1 deck against Ryan Ferries on Burn, who was the runner-up at the Indianapolis Open a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that Hollow 1 has a pretty good Burn matchup. Namely, the ways you beat Burn are being slightly faster than them and not being overly vulnerable to their creatures attacking you. So if you can get an early Hollow 1 or Gurmag Angler onto the battlefield, you don't take damage from Eidolon of the Great Revel, which is huge. And you also apply enough pressure to them so that they can't really afford to play a lot of spells into their own Eidolon.
Yep, Hollow 1's pretty good at getting some big creatures that don't get hit Eidolon out there. Barich, another Ponder here. He's really digging for that way to interact with Jit because he knows the writing's on the wall if he can't find it.
I'm going to take a look at his deck list here, see just how many copies of Vines of Vastwood he has. I know at times I've gone all the way down to only 2 Vines of Vastwood.
Usually it's 3.
Yeah, he does have 3, though.
Yeah, although it looks like he's kind of conceding the point here. He's putting the Glistener Elf in play, not holding up interaction. And Jonathan's going to put in the Batterskull, which is interesting here because I would pretty much always try to get in the Jit here. But
so he can still do it on his turn. The Batterskull generates a creature that can attack for big chunks of damage this turn. What I like the other way better, though, like we were talking about, just because he has a Wasteland in hand, I believe, and a port in play. So if he just put GT into play last turn, he could have both ported and Wasteland Aaron next turn to take him off of 2 of his mana.
Yep, but he's got the Batterskull here with the Alex Basteki Germ token. He's going to suit it up with the Jit. It's going to get some counters. He's going to get in there for damage, and it's going to shoot down the Glistener Elf. And now Barich is really up against it. And as you said, there's the Wasteland from Jonathan. It's going to pass. Barich is going to get a look at some more cards with Library here, but I don't know if it's going to matter. It's a little late.
Yeah, I think his way out here was to find another Glistener Elf and a Vines of Vastwood in that one Sylvan Library. So he could go Glistener Elf plus Blighted Agent plus Vines of Vastwood to protect from one of the counters. But that's not even enough because he's still going to get 2 more counters.
Next turn.
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe there was no way out after the first connect.
Yeah, it basically becomes double Abyss once you get counters on the Jitte. Yeah. And if your hand is like super stacked and you have Pendlehaven and stuff like that in play, you get to kind of fight through them, but even still it's going to be very difficult. He's got the Blight Agent, I just said he started the last turn with. He's going to play it, but Jonathan's going to try to shoot it down with the Jit here.
And we're using a Become Immense to trade with a counter off of Umezawa's Jitte.
Never a good feeling.
Not where you want to be. No, sir.
Let's check out Barich's list. See if there's a main deck interaction for the Jit in terms of removal. It does not look like he has Corruptor or Descender's Deliverance. So he has no way to get this off the battlefield at this point.
Yeah, and he has no way to get it off the creature once it's equipped either. Like we were talking about earlier, the Vines only stops it for a turn, but once it's on, it's on.
Yep. And the Wasteland, and Aaron knows this game is effectively over. He's going to pick up his cards. Jonathan's going to get game 1. Death and Taxes, that's the kind of start you need. Aaron kind of fumbled around, didn't get any other threats. Jonathan got Stoneforge Mystic online, and that's the name of the game there.
All right, we're going to talk about these sideboards really fast. We'll start with Aaron Barrett. He's got 2 copies of Flusterstorm, 2 Dismember, 2 Surgical Extraction, a Hydroblast, a Sylvan Library, a Descender's Deliverance, a Viridian Corruptor, a Corrosion Grip, all of which you wish you had in the last game.
You definitely want those.
Force of Will, Submerge, Pithy Needle, and Relic of Progenitus. What do you like in this matchup, Nick?
In this matchup, I try to bring in, obviously, all the forms to interact with Jit, because those not only can hit Jit, but they can also hit Aether Vial and stuff like that.
Right,
if you have
and even Fire
copies.
Chain Revoker if you need it to. It doesn't really name anything against you,
it can
but
hit
it can be
Noble
a blocker.
Hierarch, which will shut down your mana.
Yeah, that's true too.
But outside of that, Usually you could do something like Pithing Needle if you're worried about Wasteland or if you're worried about stuff like that.
It also shuts down Ether Vial, which is a huge part of their game plan. If you're light on mana, it can name Wasteland too, which is nice.
I'm trying to take a look if he has a crop rotation package, and it doesn't look like he does.
He has the one crop rotation in his main deck, which is namely there as kind of like a 5th Inkmoth Nexus. But, he's not playing the one Wasteland, the one Bojuka Bog. He's not doing that number.
Tom Ross popularized the Karakas thing, and
Yes.
you could often bring in Karakas against this deck because it'll bounce Thalia. So
Yeah,
outside of that, Dissenter's Deliverance, Viridian Corruptor, Corrosive Grip, those are coming in. I could also see a case for Dismember, depending on how much counter magic he wants it to take out.
Oh, I absolutely love Dismember in this matchup. Your life total is not under a significant amount of pressure for the first 5 or 6 turns of the game because they're just trying to develop with things like Ether Vial, trying to disrupt you with things like Thalia, Roost Import. They want the game to go longer so that their disruption has a bigger effect on you. Dismember allows you to take care of Thalia pretty early on, so it unlocks the rest of your spells. But also, if they are lucky enough to get something like Sanctum Prelay on the battlefield, it's one of the few answers you have in your deck to actually kill it.
Right, and in game, when you're on the play, I don't actually mind leaving in a couple of dazes and taking out the Force of Wills.
Yes.
Because you can definitely hit Vial and things like that to get
Absolutely.
there. Let's take a look at Jonathan Cyborg.
All right, we got 2 copies of Council's Judgment, 2 Aethersworn Canonist, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Surgical Extraction, 1 Devout Lightcaster, 1 Gideon Ally of Zendikar, 1 Manriki Gusari, 1 Walking Ballista, and 1 Containment Priest. What you like in this matchup?
Walking Ballista is a absolute house in this matchup. Very
sure.
good. Path to Exile, extra removal spells there. Outside of that, Council's Judgment is the other card, and also Aethersworn Canonist. In this matchup, I've talked to a lot of Death and Taxes players like Phil Gallagher, someone playing on the Premier Legacy League this season. He advocates kind of dropping Mother of Runes and stuff like that, and kind of bringing in all the removal and
Just
then Walking
any
Ballista.
piece of interaction.
Yeah.
All interaction is good in a matchup like Infect. Council Judgment, even though it costs 3, notably gets around stuff like Vines of Vastwood, which is huge, because it doesn't actually target. You cast it, you say, okay, does this resolve? The Infect player says, yeah, fine. And then you choose the Infect creature that's on the battlefield.
Yep. Canonist also shuts down the combo kill, so they can never really double spell you or things like that. And
no, I love Aethersworn Canonist in this matchup. One of the easiest ways for Infect to win is to play an early creature and then just kill you before you get anything really online. And Canonist makes it so that you just buy yourself more time, and that's all you ever really need.
All right, well, that's I think how they're going to sideboard. Those cards are kind of relevant in this matchup. We got Barich going to 6 here, it looks like. He is on the play, and this is a match where, I think quantity of cards is not as relevant as quality of cards in this matchup.
For sure.
Also there, game 1 going to Nathan.
All right, we have a look at our Aaron Barrett token that he won after winning the most recent StarCityGames.com Season 1 Invitational, where he was playing Infect in Modern.
Definitely.
So this guy likes some Infect. He seems like your type of guy, Nick.
Yep, him and Tom, they've taught me a lot. We've talked a lot about Infect. Obviously, they're both from the same area generally, both play the deck. Here's how you can get your invitational tokens.
Yeah, you get your token if you come to one of our SCG Tour events and you join the Open or play any of our Classics on the second day. Beginning this weekend, actually, so everyone here got an Aaron Barrett token, but just for signing up for those events, you get one with your playmat.
I really enjoy this token. He's got all the stuff kind of pertaining to him on this card. He's got the hat.
Yes.
He's got the colors of the hat in the shield.
Nice.
He's got the New Orleans logo there. I always forget what that thing's actually called.
The Fleur de Lis, apparently.
So
we've been
that's
informed.
that's on his shirt as well. Or his
you can also get any of you can get this token by placing an order from StarCityGames.com. It says beginning July 27th, but that's obviously past. As long as you have $5 or more in your order, you get one Aaron Barrett token with it. Notably, he chose to be a soldier. I want to point that out, just because he didn't want to step on his hero's toes, respecting Tom Ross and his Infect token there.
He could have easily sniped that out, but little respect. And Barrett here keeping 6 on the play. He's going to hit Windswept Heath here, going to look for most likely a Trop and then play Nobleheart. These are the starts that are very good for you on the Infect side. Having the extra mana to fight through the denial is really powerful.
Yep. Looks like Jonathan is not as keen on the taking out Mother Runes plan, which could end up being very good for him here because he does have an Aethersworn Canonist on turn 2. And if he's able to protect that from the likes of Viridian Corruptor, Dissenter's Deliverance, things like that, it could be good enough to slow Aaron down.
Mother Rune's, of course, still a good card, and it kind of depends on the texture of the board and the matchups where it can shine or not. But generally, it's not a great blocker because of Inkmoth Nexus and Blight Agent, but still can pull its weight.
Yeah, so Barich here, he doesn't have a follow-up land, but he does still have 2 mana thanks to Noble. He's going to go Dismember because once Mother Rune's in play, it's basically the only target you can use it on. But followed up with Glistener Elf and 2 copies of Invigorate in hand. He's threatening lethal as easily as next turn.
And this is where you kind of put the fear in him. Jonathan has to decide, what's my play? Do I play a creature, and then do I block? This kind of thing. Am I dead? Canonist here will shut down the combo.
Yeah, and nicely it's a human, so the Cavern of Souls makes it uncountable. One of the few human artifact creatures, but it's like a hybrid.
Here, Aaron's going to attack with the Exalted Trigger on the stack. He's going to use the Pendlehaven to get that extra buff and fire off the Invigorate to get in a nice 7 chunk of Infect here.
Yeah, 7 poison this early in the game is a lot, but thanks to the Thorn Canonist, it wasn't lethal because he could not play the second Invigorate in hand.
Yep. Very notable there. He would have been dead otherwise. This still opens up, he can start chump blocking if he wants, but if Aaron has Berserk, he can still trample over for those final 3 Infect due to how he's using Pendlehaven alongside the Noble Hierarch buff.
Right. And that like Berserk is one of the better cards in this matchup because it actually turns your Glistener Elf into a real threat.
Definitely.
Where normally Glistener Elf would get either chump blocked or traded with pretty early on.
So Jonathan's third land here, Wasteland. You like to save those for the Inkmoth Nexuses in this matchup, but he's going to go with, that's the Mirren Crusader, which is a house against Glistener Elf.
Oh, for sure. Protection from green means you're not getting rid of it. Protection from black means you also can't hit it with Dismember. So he's going to need to find another Infect creature, and it can't really be an Inkmoth Nexus, and it's got to be quick.
Yep. Yeah, and it is a fast clock, too, especially if they get some equipment on it. Woo, got to look out for that.
Yeah, and Double Strike makes it so that you get 4 Umezawa's Jite's counters per, which is nice.
Yep. Another Noble Hierarch here for Aaron. So here he might be trying to set up, get the Glistener big enough to kind of attack through, and then if he finds Berserk, he can trample over for enough, because right now a double block puts a lot of toughness in front of that Glistener Elf.
Yeah. Noticeably, Aetherborn Canonist doesn't affect artifact spells, so he could play this Fraction Invoker as well as something like a Mother of Runes or Stoneforge Mystic from his hand. But I believe he's just going to go for the double Wasteland this turn and just restrict Aaron on as much mana as he can.
Very hard to turn down the Wastelanding of most of his lands here,
Yep.
although he does have to be careful. If Aaron has crop rotation, you can get got by doing that.
Right, but the second Wasteland means that the crop rotation is not going to get him too bad. And naming Revoker means that Aaron Barich is effectively out of mana sources at this point. Oh, he drew the Berserk, too. That's so gross.
So he could attack for 3 here? I think I would have put him to the test there, maybe.
No, because Mirror Crusader just blocks 100%,
That's true.
right?
That's true.
And if he, he can't take 3, so he has to block. But if Aaron draws a green source next turn, and Jonathan doesn't have a Thalia, and he doesn't block with all of his creatures.
I was also mistaken. He couldn't even cast it because Noble Hierarch shut down the Revoker. So
Sure.
couldn't have Berserk there anyway. Now the Jit is probably going to be digged up here with Stoneforge Mystic, and Barich is up against it once again here. He's going to have to try to find a win quick, or Jit plus Mirren Crusader, a lot of damage, a lot of counters.
Yeah, this is not good news for Barich. One of the matchups that I would say is an easier one for Infect is not looking so good now. Yeah. And I think that's a true testament to the overall strength and resiliency as well as consistency of this Death and Taxes deck.
Yeah, a lot of people like to poo-poo on the D&T deck, but it has draws that can beat most decks. And as you can see here, the Disruption plus the clock here, this is real.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a reason why 2 of them made top 4 at the Pro Tour 25th anniversary. It's hilarious, though, because I'm pretty sure Aaron would have won this game that turn if he had drawn a land, thanks to the likes of Berserk.
Yep. Now Crusader got in for attack there, but
now it's all but locked up. We got Swords of Plowshares in hand. We got Umezawa's Jite coming next turn. Not good.
And if you're Jonathan here, you just sit back, because as long as you have Canonist in play, you can just kind of play defense and swords the Infect threat, and if they try to do a pump spell, then they can't protect it because of Canonist. So there's Jit. It's online. It's on Mirren Crusader. It's all over but the crying here for Aaron.
Let's go to Esper Red Black. Looks like Aaron packs it in after Mirren Crusader chunks in with an Umezawa's Jite. It's a lot of damage. It's a lot of counters. Infect losing a matchup that I thought it was going to win pretty easily.
Yep. I mean, Jonathan was on the play there game one. Aaron just didn't find any threats, and that's the way it goes sometimes. You can just do a whole bunch of fiddling with your deck with cantrips, and if you don't find the spells that matter, it doesn't matter what you got.
Yeah, for sure.
Go back down here to Benedict Chukwuma. Chukwuma, sorry.
It's probably Chukwuma, or I don't know. Cedric said it earlier. I'm pretty sure it's Chukwuma.
All right, so we're going to throw it down to the standard match here. Benedict, of course, won the Secret Open at the first SCG Con we had last year. He was playing Tron in Modern at that point.
All right, we're going to have Nathan found here on Esper Control as part of Aaron Barich's squad. Looks like he was flashing back of Vraska's Contempt here with the Torrential Gearhulk. And in response, though, Benedict hits him with an unlicensed integration while he still has an artifact in play, dealing him some damage.
So if these life totals are accurate, it's 2019. And it's pretty late in the game here.
Contempt should be exiled, but I'm not 100% because we jumped in a weird spot. Now, this is exactly where the Esper Control deck wants to be. Your opponent with no creatures on the battlefield, you at a healthy 18 life. The Esper Control deck has a lot of spells that are great in the late game, and the red-black aggro deck only has a handful. Things like Chandra, Hazoret, Phoenix, Glorybringer. These are all good cards, but they don't generate actual card advantage most of the time. Whereas the Esper Control deck, once it starts casting Gearhulks and Scarab Gods and Glimmer of Genius, things can get out of hand pretty quickly.
We've got the Phoenix here for Benedict. He's going to go ahead and tack on in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Nathan actually has a Vraska's Contempt in hand. I could be wrong. Choosing instead to hold it for something like a Hazoret or a Chandra. The Phoenix deals damage, sure, but it's not nearly as threatening as one of those permanents that you have virtually no other answer to.
Yeah, being very patient there with the removal spell. He's going to fall down to 14. He's got a cushion there. Very good in the early game, so we'll see how Benedict decides how he wants to apply more pressure here.
Now, Chukwuma drew a Duress. He doesn't have anything else to cast this turn. It's possible he wants to hold this Duress for a later turn so that he can go Duress plus another spell in the same turn, and that'll soak up a lot of Nathan's mana. However, he just wants to try to clear the way for some bigger spell that might be problematic, and he still draws a negate for his troubles.
Yep, basically took a card anyway, and the Phoenix goes ahead and gets in another hit for 4. In the Modern seats, Ryan ties it up 1-1. They're going to go to a deciding game 3 there. Of course, if Ryan wins, match is over, but Benedict here going to try to get it back here for his team as well.
Yeah, I was actually wrong about Nathan. It wasn't a Vraska's Contempt. I believe it was an F&M promo Fatal Push. So, makes more sense why he wouldn't be killing the Phoenix. His life total is getting pretty low here.
Yeah, also impossible without Revolt. So
that's true.
Goes down to 6 from another hit from the Phoenix, and if Nathan doesn't find an answer quick, this game's going to be pretty wrapped up here.
So I'm not positive. I think Nathan has an Infernal Reckoning in hand,
Ooh.
Which we haven't seen a lot of or even a lot of talk of. But it's a card that apparently gained a lot of popularity in the last few days as a tech card for these blue-black splashing Teferi control decks.
Yep.
It exiles Heart of Kirin, which is a big deal.
And Scrap Heap.
Scrap Heap Scrounger. Exile being a key part of that effect. And it takes care of Bomat Courier, and those are 3 of the more powerful threats from the red-black aggro deck against your control deck.
Yeah, bat signals for those all over from the GPs this weekend. But we've got Angrith, the Flame Chain here coming down for Benedict. This is a powerful Planeswalker.
Yeah, and not only does it hit cards out of the control deck's hand, it also deals 2 damage each time, as well as if there's a Torrential Gearhulk ever on the battlefield, it swings it for 5.
Thank you for that. Nathan does not have the answer here. He's going to pack it in. They're going to go to a deciding game 3 here in the standard seat.
Yeah, even though Jonathan won his match against Aaron Barich, both these other matches are in the deciding game 3 now, so it could go either way.
What do we got in sideboards here? Let's see. For Nathan in the sideboard here, they're obviously in game 3, so they already have access to the sideboards. But it looks like he's got Sorcerer's Spyglass, 2 copies of Vizier of Many Faces, 2 Jace's Defeat, and an Essence Extraction, 2 Infernal Reckoning, 4 Glint Sieve Siphoner, 2 Negate, and it looks like a card that I can't read due to handwriting.
No way, that doesn't say Chromium.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. It's a Chromium. He's
there
got
we go.
one. Anywho.
So we already saw the Infernal Reckonings, it looks like, and I don't see a bunch more I want in this matchup. Maybe
No.
negates post board for the Planeswalkers?
Yeah, you need ways to deal with the Planeswalkers. It also can stop stuff like Doomfall or Duress if you want to protect your more important spells from discard effects. Other than that, I don't see a whole lot else. Maybe Essence Extraction because it can buy you
It's a
some
removal
time.
spell. Yeah.
Right. But there is a danger to having too much removal in your deck after sideboard against these red-black aggro decks, because they can transition to a slower, grindier deck pretty easily, thanks to stuff like Duress, Argyll's Bloodfast, things like that being in the format. They can play a card advantage war with you, and a lot of times they'll win. A lot of their cards generate 2-for-1s or are just annoyingly hard to deal with and require very specific types of removal. I mean, we saw Infernal Reckoning in Nathan Fountain's hand that game, but there was no target.
Yep.
It ended up getting discarded to Angrath, and if it was anything else, that would have been great.
Oh, so we have misinformation here on the floor. It looks like Gregory was able to take the match 2-0, so this is the deciding game. We will see the final
Love
game
it.
that decides this match.
Gotcha.
And this will determine who makes day 2, because it does not look like X3 is going to make the cut. There's obviously a world where somehow it does, but normally these opens that are of close to 300 teams, X2 is the cut.
Yeah, sometimes X2 1 squeaks in, as we talked about earlier, but for the most part, you're safe at X and 2.
So we'll be going to game 3, and it looks like Nathan should be on the play here.
Before we get into game 3, do we want to take a cut to the ultimate guard? This is Cedric's job. I actually don't really know if we're supposed to go to commercial here before game 3.
Look, you know Cedric wants to show ultimate guard, so
that's true. All right, well, we've already given him the green light to start playing, so thanks, Twitch chat. No more commercials this round. You're welcome.
No Reddit threads there. All right, we got Nathan leading off with basic Swamp here, and Benedict, of course, has Mountain but no threat.
Yeah, no turn 1 Bowmat Courier. Not a great start from the red-black aggro deck. It's a card you always want to see on the first turn, especially against control decks.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of varying opinions on how to kind of play these post-board matchups with the red-black deck. If you read any of the articles in Star City Games or listen to the Game podcast with Jerry, he goes over all kinds of ways you can kind of play this matchup, what kind of threats you want to leave in, how heavy you want to go on Planeswalkers, discard, that kind of stuff. So there could be a chance that Benedict, is slimmed down on the early threats for kind of this more mid-range stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be cutting stuff like Bowmat Courier or Scrap Heap Scrounger, though. Those are the heart of your deck in this matchup because you need to force your opponent to have it early on. If they don't, you just get to deal so much chip damage that they have to start playing spells on their own turn, basically, to handle your stuff, and that starts letting you resolve things like Chandra and Hazaret and Phoenix and Glorybringer and such.
Well, Benedict goes for his first threat of the game on turn 3. There's a Chain Whirler. Goblin Chain Whirler, of course, deals no damage because it gets hit by Disallow. Goes to the graveyard.
And that's actually good news for Benedict if he's burning a counterspell on a Goblin Chain Whirler, because Chain Whirler's not that good in this matchup. It's a 3-mana 3/3 that deals 1 to the face.
He does get a Rekindled Phoenix into play, but before it gets to deal any damage, Vraska's Contempt is going to go ahead and exile that. He's going to gain 2 life for his troubles. Nathan at 22, sitting pretty, is going to land a Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, a very powerful Magic card.
Yeah, I mean, this card has given new life to control decks and Turbo Fog alike. We've seen Teferi already quite a bit in Modern, and it's even been cropping up in Legacy and Vintage.
I've seen it in all those lists, all those formats.
A very powerful card. Now, Benedict has a tough decision. He can't really check the Teferi this turn, so he has to figure out which threat he wants to play. The highest upside is Angrath, but that just runs straight into a Syncopate or a Negate.
And as you said, Nathan has the answer for it, and Benedict is going to be in trouble now as Teferi is going to tick up again. That's 2 extra cards for Nathan now, and he is pulling ahead in the card advantage roll.
Yeah, this is really bad for Benedict. Whenever you have no creatures on the battlefield and your opponent gets to untap with a Teferi, I don't want to call it now, but I would be fine scooping them up right this minute.
Not a favorable position and not somewhere you want to be facing down Teferi. 6 loyalty with nothing on the board. And Nathan is, cycling extra lands here, sitting back with a bunch of lands. It's going to be tough for Benedict here.
Yeah, it looks like he has one of his better cards in Hazaret. However, he can't empty his hand enough this turn to actually attack with it. And if I'm not mistaken, Nathan actually has a Torrential Gearhulk in hand, which he can flash back the Vraska's Contempt to get rid of the Hazaret permanently.
Benedict going to go for the Scrap Heap Scrounger here, finally showing up.
Yeah, not something you necessarily want on turn 6, much better on turn 2.
All right, and that's what his play is going to be. It looks like he's passing back here. Nathan, there it is, the Infernal Reckoning.
Yeah, and it looks like Benedict has an Abrade in hand, so he can just choose to destroy his own Scrounger in response. That'll keep him from gaining the life and allow it to go to the graveyard instead of the exile zone.
Exile target colorless creature. You gain life equal to its power. A card, a lot of people say is going to be powerful at dealing with all those super good Eldrazi in the Eternal formats.
Yes.
The problem is Chalice of the Void doesn't let you cast this card a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of Chalice of the Voids in the modern versions of that deck. I mean, we see it from time to time in the popularized colorless Tron deck that Todd Stevens was a fan of. But the traditional, like, Semeyn Spirit Guide, Chalice of the Void, colorless Eldrazi deck doesn't really exist anymore in modern. However, in Legacy, Chalice of the Void's still pretty
all
big
over the
deal.
place.
Yeah.
Nathan, of course, ticked up to Ferry once again. Benedict got his Scrap Heap Scavenger back from the graveyard, but now it's time for that Torrential Gearhulk to come in, and that's going to hit the Infernal Reckoning on the Scrap Heap, taking care of it forever now.
Yeah, and he had the choice to use that or Vraska's Contempt, but I think he wants to keep the Contempt in the yard over the Reckoning because it's a little more versatile, and a future Torrential Gearhulk could use that Vraska's Contempt to clear a Chandra or the like.
Benedict with a Ether Hub here is going to get an energy with the Jacob Ball counter. I don't know how much energy he needs in the world to try to take out this match.
I mean, as far as I remember, Goku basically took the energy of the entire planet and missed.
Tough
So,
Nice shot, Goku.
Yeah.
We've got Hazoret the Fervent here for Benedict, but it looks like he's going to get hit by an Essence Scatter here.
Yeah, that's no bueno. Even if he did resolve it, though, that Torrential Gearhulk still can block it. The Steferi's going up to 8. Now all he has to do is fade 1 3-power creature off the top for Benedict. And then he's just going to get the ultimate. And if I'm not mistaken, his hand is wrapped up.
It's pretty good.
Fatal Push, that's all you really needed, to start. But he also has a Vraska's Contempt and a Disallow, I think.
Yeah.
Benedict
did get in Heart of Kiran there before passing the turn. Nathan cracked in with the Torrential Gearhulk, but the onus is on Benedict here to try to find a way to take care of this Teferi. He's got On-Crop Crasher, which is a 3-drop, and it can crew that Heart. Of course, it has haste itself, but he's going to go ahead and crew the Heart. Going to go after Teferi. That ain't going to happen. Fatal Push takes down the powerful vehicle.
Yeah, and now we're going to get to see a Teferi Ultimate, which is going to be game over. I believe Nathan also has a backup Teferi in hand to start drawing more cards, which is going to continually exile all the threats that Benedict could ever play. And on top of that, we're still at 25 life.
Yeah, this game went pretty well for Nathan. He's going to get the backup Teferi here. Going to start casting some spells, exiling some permanents, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we saw just how Teferi took over this game. We played it on 5. We use it to draw a card and untap and Essence Scatter the next play. Syncopate the next play, which was the Angrath on turn 5 from Benedict. And once that happened, and you get to untap with Teferi against a clear battlefield, it's over.
Yep. And there's the Gearhulk getting in for 5 more. Benedict down to 10. There's the backup Teferi in play. He draws the Glorybringer. He's going to go after the Teferi, but of course, Nathan...
All you have to do is cycle an irrigated farmland.
Takes care of that dragon, no problem.
I know this looks like an impossible scenario. I know that everyone knows the game is over, but this is day 2 on the line.
Make him play it out.
You can't give up.
I like the fighting spirit here from Benedict.
You can't give up. Not today.
Gearhulk knocks him down to 5. Another card for Nathan. There's a land off the top, and Benedict's going to extend the hand. Nathan takes the match 2-1. Now, of course, that team of Barich, Stiver, and Fountain, they're going to advance to day 2.
Yeah, and they're going to be in a pretty good spot. 7-2 is a fine record in these team tournaments. Even though there are